Hello, everyone. I hope all of you are doing great. Well, uh, your final exam is just around the corner. So I believe you have got approximately 36 hours left in your final exam. And when 36 hours are left in your final exam, a student who stands somewhere around 40 to 45 can actually pass the paper comprehensively, and a student who is sitting comfortably right now somewhere around 60 to 65 can unfortunately end up failing the exam. Now this may sound weird to you. Well, let me tell you, throughout the session I advocate and I highlight just one thing, and that is stay aggressive, stay aggressive, stay aggressive. But to be very honest, when it comes to the last 2 3 days, especially heading towards the final exam day, which is your D day, you need to stay optimistic rather than aggressive. You have to keep it calm. You have to lower down the expectations, and you have to think about your strengths rather than the weaknesses. If I give you an extra 100 days, an extra 10 days, so that you could prepare your AAA exam, trust me on that. Still, when the exam will be just around the corner, you will still have butterflies. Your mind will still be thinking about certain possible exam requirements where you are not having an extraordinary grip. So if I have to attempt my AAA exam on Monday, 1st September 2025, still I will start feeling confident for certain things, but I will have doubts for certain things. So the best approach is, don't overcomplicate things for yourself. Don't have you need to keep things simple, and you have to have a self belief that your exam preparation is good enough to score 50 marks or beyond that. And trust me on that, if you are going to be optimistic and if you are not going to give up during the exam, you will shine like a bright star. So take it easy. You are going to pass the paper. There is just one thing which stands between you and the success, and that one thing is whether you are going to give up or you are going to fight till the last moment. It is going to be a difficult exam for everyone. So who's going to pass the paper? The one who's going to fight till the last moment. If you will realize that a certain part is difficult, take it easy. Focus on other parts, and eventually you will have time to fight in that part as well, which you initially realize that it's a difficult one. So it's all about your attitude. It's all about keeping it positive. It's all about having a self belief that yes, I can pass the paper. Because if you are going to have an optimistic attitude, trust me, you are covered and you will pass the paper. So don't panic. Okay, now why I am recording this particular session? Well, there is an agenda for that, and let's go for the agenda. And well, first of all, apologies why I'm recording this session so late, because day before yesterday, we we finally had the AAA mock debrief session. And for both AA and AAA, it's not just the total marks which are important. The comments, a student needs to know that why he or she scored just 1 mark in business risk rather than the full 2 marks. And so it is really important to critically evaluate each and every script. So finally, I'm done with the mock marking. So it's time for something really interesting. And it's time for an auditing standard, which is called ISA, International Standard on Auditing for Less Complex Entities. So guys, let me quickly burst the bubble first. It is not a current issue. Current issue is something which is an ongoing development. Maybe an exposure draft is available, but this is not a current issue. This is a latest technical article available under the category of syllabus area D, which is about risk assessment and planning the audit. So it's about planning, it's about risk assessment, it's about syllabus area D. It is not a current issue. Okay. Question number two. So question number one, it is not a current issue. Second number thing, why there is not a specific name for that? Because the standard board, the IAASB, International or Assurance Standard Board, Audit and Assurance Standard Board, will not publish a series of standards. That's why they are not going to name it. So let's start the show, and it's just going to take 5 to 10 minutes, and you'll be done with it. So the board has issued what? As I just mentioned, a stand-alone auditing standard. But for whom? For less complex entities. So 99% problems would be resolved if you could understand what is a less complex entity. And I'll be teaching that. This standard contains everything which you need as an auditor so that you could obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatements. So it's the same. So if you are auditing a big Fortune 500 company, and if you're auditing a less complex entity, the basic chemistry or the principles would remain same. You need to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. Everything is same, but it's just that if it is a less complex entity, the standard board is trying to come up with a simpler standard so that the job could be executed in a more convenient way. So let's start. What is the purpose of this standard? All those ISAs, all those ISAs which you have studied so far, they are too long, they are complex, they are heavy. So in order to resolve this problem, in order to facilitate when it comes to smaller entities, the ISA for LCE solves this problem by giving a global simplified standard, which is specifically focused for what? For less complex businesses. So what are the objectives of this standard? Well, first of all, ISA for LC keeps the principle of ISA. So there is no major contradiction. So whatever you have studied in your AA and AAA, that remains the same. Whatever you know about materiality, whatever you know about procedures, whatever you know about risk, whatever you know about standards, all is same. Procedures are scaled to the size and simplicity. So we are just trying to come up with a simplified version. Yes, we are going to use the same risk-based approach. You know what we used to do in AA and AAA? We used to assess the risk, and then we used to design procedures, and we used to gather evidence. We are going to do the same. Nothing special, nothing complicated. Yes, because we are going to audit an LCE now. So the standard says the aim is to reduce heavy documentation requirements, which are usually required in full ISAs. So overall, things would become easier for an auditor when the auditor is involved in the audit of less complex entities. Now, the burning question is, if I am the engagement partner working for KPMG, can I use LCE in any given situation? No, it depends upon jurisdictional adoption. So it depends upon the laws and regulations applicable to that economy or company or country. So every country will have its own laws and regulations. But there are certain guidelines from the standard. You cannot use this particular standard for a listed entity. So maybe in your triple exam, maybe you might see this thing that the partner or the manager or someone or maybe audit committee is suggesting that we are a small company. Why don't you guys apply ISA for LCE rather than the full ISAs? No, if it is a listed entity, even if it is a small company, but a listed entity, no, I cannot. I cannot use it for public interest entities such as banks or insurance companies. I cannot use it for companies which are operating within the group. So please try to understand this is where you cannot apply this particular standard. So what kind of companies? Imagine a company which does not fall under this particular list of prohibited companies. So what characteristics I need to look for in order to figure it out whether this company actually uh, is allowed to operate as an can I apply the ISA for LC on that? Well, first of all, as an audit firm, we will look at the industry and the business model. Maybe when I will evaluate the industry and the business model, I will realize, no, this is a high risk client. Their business is complex. They've got multiple sources of revenue. Well, in that case, I will not go for this standard. But if there are only few revenues, not a highly regulated company, so I can actually go for this standard. I need to evaluate the organizational structure and the reporting lines. If it's a simple structure, not multiple, reporting lines, a small management, can hardly 4 to 5 people are involved, centralized department, simple ownership, not a complex, especially not a listed company. So if these characteristics are there, if the functions are simple, centralized with handful people of five or maybe less are dealing the entire company, if these characteristics are available in a company and that company does not fall under this category, I can actually go for the simplified version of the auditing standards, which is a standalone standard, which is called ISA for LC. That's it. So, as a student for the AAA exam, you need to cover your knowledge. What are less complex entities? If I am the auditor of a firm, can I apply this particular standalone standard to any company? The answer is no. Listed companies, public interest companies, part of the groups are not allowed. And these are the characteristics which I must, you know, evaluate before making this decision that yes, I need to go for this standard or not. So yeah, definitely there are multiple benefits of this particular standard, especially when we are auditing a less complex entity. Things are simple, things are more efficient. It reduces the cost as well, not only for the, it also reduces the cost for the client. So this whole audit process become more convenient. Okay, we are heading towards the last part. And I think I've covered almost 80% of this lecture. Let's focus on the last part. In the AAA exam, your examiner might ask you to explain what are the characteristics of an LCE or what factors you need to consider before evaluating that, yes, this company is suitable for this standard, or what are the benefits of applying this standard. So this is what I would call a bookish knowledge kind of an exam requirement. And if you have read all these notes, you're already covered with this. So let's not focus on exam requirement one anymore. We have already covered it. So I would say forget about the possible exam requirement number one now, and let's focus on exam requirement number two and three, and I'll be done. Now, before I move towards the exam requirement number two and three, let me tell you something. If you have covered all my lectures, especially in relation to what factors we need to consider before accepting an engagement, and if you have covered my lectures in relation to ISQM 1, ISQM 2, so if you're well prepared for quality management, so let me repeat, if you're well prepared for engagement acceptance considerations, and if you're well prepared for quality management, this topic is done and dusted for you. You're already done. So let's go for exam requirement number two, which is the second last. Maybe in the exam, your examiner will create an application based, a scenario based, a real life story for you. And you will be given certain characteristics about an entity. So you may be asked whether ISA for LCE can actually be applied to a given entity which is available in the question in the exam. Now, what does that mean? It means you as an auditor, you as a manager, you as a student need to consider the entity's nature of the business, its size, its structure, the complexity, the ownership characteristic, the reporting lines, and all those characteristics, how this organization is uh, how this organization is operating, the revenue streams, the number of levels of management, all those characteristics will help you in deciding are you going to apply this particular standard or not. So in simple words, if an entity is small but operates in a highly regulated industry, such as a microfinance bank, no, don't go for this standard. Similarly, if an entity is small but has complex estimates like fair value of investment properties, financial instruments, all that stuff. No, 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 no. Don't go for this standard. So the examiner wants you to have the ability to pick up certain points from the question, and you must give the reason. You know what I say? Identify the point from the question and develop. So don't just pick up the point from the question. Give me the reason why you think that this standard should not be applied for this particular entity. Why you think that this particular company, which is under consideration, is not suitable for this standard. So that's your second possible exam requirement. Now, what's your third possible exam requirement? The examiner may test your ability. Now, what ability? To critique a situation where ISA for LCE was applied inappropriately. So in the second requirement, I said you need to consider, are you going to apply the standard or not? Now things have changed. The third and the final exam requirement is, for example, you are a manager and you are evaluating the work already performed, just like a simple quality management question, a, 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 a normal quality management question like Forsythia, James, Welford, Bradley, and all that stuff. Now, for example, imagine this question tells you that an audit firm actually used this particular standard on an audit of for the audit of a small listed company. Past tense, already used. Now that's clearly wrong. Now, again, my drafting technique, you will pick up the point, but don't just say this is a listed company, wrong, poor quality. No, 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 no. You must explain it. So that's clearly wrong because listed entities are strictly prohibited. Or maybe the firm applied this particular standard to a client which had complex IT systems and multiple business units with diversified revenue streams. So again, in the exam, you must identify the mistake from the question itself, that on this particular occasion, this standard has been wrongly applied, and don't stop over there. In order to fetch full marks, as I always say for business risk and risk of material misstatement and ethics, you must explain and you must develop your point, and you have to explain that as a result of that, the firm would have applied incorrect or insufficient procedures. The firm would have reached, the firm might not have gathered sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So overall, the opinion is vulnerable. It's not, you cannot trust that opinion, and it's a compromise on quality. That's it. You are done. You are done. So if you understood nothing whatsoever, which I taught in the last 10 minutes, still you can be absolutely well prepared if you could read these three paragraphs. And I'm done. And I'm done. So these three paragraphs, and you are done for the day. And what are those three paragraphs? So first of all, it is not a current issue. It is a stand-alone standard which makes audit smaller, simpler, more practical, and ultimately cheaper as well. So this particular standard cuts down the heavy complexities of full ISAs, but without compromising on the principles. So this is the first paragraph, and you need to understand there are certain situations where this standard is strictly prohibited, such as in the case of listed entities or public interest entities or banks, and for example, banks and insurance. Second paragraph, please try to understand on not in every situation we are going to apply this standard. So in order to decide whether this standard is suitable or not, you need to check out the entity's nature and characteristics. You need to figure out the business model. You need to figure out the business model, and you need to evaluate whether they have got a complex accounting system, whether they've got a, give me a second, please. Yeah, whether they've got a complex accounting system. So this is what I call engagement acceptance. So that could be your second exam requirement. And the third and the final thing is, you might realize after reading the question, the exam requirement 3 moves into quality management. So when I say quality management, it means probably when it comes to exam requirement 3, the client has, well, the auditor has already applied this particular standard. Now you need to figure it out whether if an audit firm wrongly applied the standard, maybe to a small listed company. Small means, okay, I have got temptation to apply the standard, but after all, it's a listed entity. No, I cannot. So in the exam, last sentence, please. Let's focus on the last sentence. In the exam, you need to spot the misuse, but don't just spot the misuse, explain why it's wrong and link it to the wider impact on quality management and the overall audit reliability. That's it, guys. Nothing to worry about, nothing complicated. This is it. Now I would like to take your leave. And before I would like to take your leave, I just want to say that all of you can actually pass this paper provided you have got you are having a peaceful mind. If you are having a panicked mind, you will underperform even in those areas where you have got strengths. This is the time where you should back your strengths. This is the time where you should have a positive attitude. So I wish you all the best, not only for your AAA exam, I wish you all the best for your ACCA membership and the life beyond it. Please stay optimistic, and no matter what happens during the exam, and no matter what type of exam comes up, if it is world's most difficult exam, still you will pass the paper provided you will fight till the last moment. So I wish you all the best and good luck and take care.